Hey there, I'm Nick from Workstream.io. And if you're tuning in today, you are probably interested as a data practitioner in learning about how to kill your service desk. And in our case, how to replace it with something that feels very, very different with what we call a data concierge. So I'm going to quickly introduce, I think, the topic of a service desk, why we care so much about it, why we hate the service desk so much. Some of the common models that you might employ as a data team or you've seen others employ. And then we'll talk about a data concierge and how do you move to a radically different approach. So to get started, when I think of the stakes of the data team service desk, I think of Dante's ninth circle of hell. And if you're not familiar with Dante, the ninth circle of hell in Dante is treachery. I found this amazing quote from Merriam-Webster about treachery. It's a violation of allegiance or of faith and confidence. Treachery is ultimately about betraying other people, about distrust between you and others. An example resonant in Dante of the ninth circle of hell was Cain, someone who betrayed and murdered his brother. And, I think this is how we feel about the service desk and what it does to us, right? We feel that in some way, shape, and form, employing a service desk and being in that service mindset is a betrayal. And what stakes could be higher, right? We're talking about a solution that's supposed to help you collaborate and work more effectively with others throughout your organization. And some of the solutions that teams bring to bear look like this, right? There's a couple of polar opposites. We hate them all. The first is Slack. A Slack channel or a series of Slack channels that you use to field requests and questions from other folks about your data. We have a customer that has one of these Slack channels. They call it Data Sucks. This is actually the name of the Slack channel. And I promised you, this is a joke. It's a joke between a data team and a customer success team. They're a very collaborative team, but the name of the channel speaks to their loathing about this part of their workflow and how they feel about it. So that's one extreme. Another extreme is actually deploying a actual ticketing service desk solution like JIRA Service Desk. I talk about JIRA Service Desk as kind of the trope here in this talk, but there's lots of other tools that folks use. You could use something as basic as Google Forms. You could use Zendesk. There's many, many examples of these types of workflow service desk tools. I think where most teams end up, though, especially mature data teams who really care about enabling others, they end up with some terrible combination where they've got both of these and no one really understands anymore where to go or where to ask questions or where's the most valuable place to interact. But when you're choosing your model or your primary model or channel, ultimately what you're doing, and one of the reasons we hate this so much is because you are making a choice and you're being forced to choose about who you optimize for. And Slack does a really good job of optimizing for synchronous and collaborative work. The pros of a model like Slack or Slack channels is that it's super collaborative and it's human. You know that there's another person on the other side of your Slack message. You can see them responding to you. You can actually see them typing. And so it's really human in that way. It can feel really fast and immediate in that way. And so all of those things are good. But the other side of that, or the flip side, is that it can feel very chatty, especially as a data practitioner. If you're actually trying to get deep work done as a data person, how are you ever going to get work done if people are constantly slacking you in these channels? For everyone, the answers that are provided can feel very untraceable. Slack threads are terrible. It's really hard to go back and find what was asked and kind of what was answered and the information that was provided. It also just kind of provides these really unreasonable expectations throughout your organization about response time. It kind of makes it feel like you should be responding right away. And so in all these ways, Slack creates lots of challenges. Again, the flip side to Slack is using a solution like JIRA Service Desk. And JIRA optimizes for asynchronous and much more transactional workflow. The pros of it are it can feel more quote unquote agile. And if you're a data team that's embraced some form of agile, which most data teams now have, it can feel like it fits much more cleanly into that part of your workflow. It does that because it can do things like manage expectations. You can set a status and say, hey, this is in our backlog, or hey, we've picked up this ticket. It's now in progress. And because of these things, and because of its asynchronous nature, it helps you manage for the deep work of your data team, for your own personal deep work. But, and it's a big but, it's impersonal. It can feel very black boxy as a data consumer. You submit a ticket and has anyone seen it? Where did it go? Has anyone picked it up? When am I going to get an answer? And it really sacrifices the speed of answers for kind of these other things that we've already talked about. And if you're somebody trying to apply data, speed of those answers is really, really important. If you don't get that answer when you need it, well, that answer doesn't matter 2 weeks later. And so the big reason that your service desk is such a tragedy and why we hate it so much is because it forces us to make this decision about who should wield the power. Should your data team wield the power? Should we prioritize what they want? Or should everyone else in the organization wield the power? And are they more important? What's so awful about this is that this is a choice about power dynamics and not about what is best for our collective organization and what is best for our business, which is really what the choice should be about. So what's the other way? Well, the other way is about moving away from the service desk mindset and to something radically different, what we call a data concierge or let's say a data concierge mindset. And there are two big pieces to it that I'm now going to demo for you. And so I'm showing you an example repository, but think of this as a single place for all of your live data, for all of your users, wherever that data lives, as well as all the knowledge about that data. That knowledge being, what data should I use as an end user? How do I use that data? And should I trust that data? And if you're looking at this, your immediate reaction might be, hey, Nick, this kind of looks like a file system. And in some ways it is, right? This is a system where you can now see data assets across whatever system they exist in your organization. This is a Looker Explore. You could have, for example, Google Sheets in your repository. You could have data that lives in Salesforce in your repository. And so this is a repository of your data, but it's also a repository of important knowledge about your data. So as an example, conversations that relate to your data and decisions that have been made off of that data, or critical things or outages or upstream data incidents that your data team needs to track and or communicate to other members within the team. And what's truly unique about this, and you'll see this throughout the course of the demo, that this is all bidirectionally integrated across your core data tools like your BI layer or even your transformation layer or the collaboration tools your team already uses today. If you're trying to find something within your repository, if you're entering into this world via your repository, one of the most common things folks do is they search, right? And so if somebody searches in your workstream repository, for example, churn, will return to you all of the relevant information that is related to churn, related dashboards or documents or spreadsheets. If you create documentation that relates to churn, or if there are conversations that relate to churn, we will categorize and present all of that to you in a single place. You can easily browse your assets, right? This is a view of my most recently viewed data assets. You can again, find things like conversations and data incidents. Or you can even get at assets as an end user in a collection that might have been curated for you. And so if you are a salesperson and you are trying to get at all the relevant assets as maybe a new joiner, you can now get at this curated sales training path. And this includes dashboards, it includes self-service assets or spreadsheets, or maybe even a README doc that's relevant and includes documentation about all of these various things. And so it contains some of this core knowledge. You can get at quick indicators of, for example, how often is this asset discussed? Where is this asset in its life cycle? Oh, this is in development, or this is an active asset. Is this asset certified, or are others in our organization liking it and using it quite a bit? So you can not only get at the live data itself within the context of a collection, but some quick metadata around it. So this is the first piece of moving away from that service desk mindset, is deploying what we call a data knowledge repository. And think of this as a help center where all this information lives together. But this next phase is where things really start to separate from anything that might have come before via our Data Concierge. So if you're trying to enter into a data asset, let's say this dashboard, via your repository, if you click in to view it, what is very unique is this is going to bring you directly into this dashboard within your BI tool. And so the repository is directly integrated with your live data. And if you were to just even enter into this dashboard as an end user, as you normally would, that's another viable path towards all of the knowledge as well. And you can now get at this knowledge wherever you already work. It gets pushed out to you proactively. So if I am an end user, I am now viewing this dashboard and there is a trust issue with this dashboard. We are tracking as a data organization a live incident with this dashboard. I am now presented within the context of your BI tool an alert telling me that, hey, we have data downtime here. Do not trust this dashboard at this specific moment in time. And if you clicked in to investigate further, our concierge will take you into the detailed context. In this case, a status page. And from this status page, you can get at all the information you need. You can see, should I trust this data right now? I shouldn't, because we have an issue. There's actually been a lot of downtime on this dashboard over the last 30 days. Is the data fresh, or are things maybe just broken? And you can see this information as a data person and triage this information from the upstream system it might be connected to, like Monte Carlo or DBT as an example. And you can even get into the actual incident that has been created and that you want to track. So here I'll now open up this data incident that we are currently tracking. And as I learn more, I can document and provide a summary of my findings, either in written form or maybe even a video to contextualize what's happening to other members of the team. As you would expect, folks can hop in here. They can ask clarifying questions. You can provide additional context. You can loop in other people, et cetera, right? You can update the status of this incident right from here. And so the core takeaway here is that wherever somebody is viewing data now, they can start to get at this really important core context, such as what data to trust. And obviously, as part of this demo, this is a data asset that we've kind of manipulated to always be failing. But most likely via the Workstream Concierge, your status pages will look something like this, right? They're up all the time. You have incidents, but most of them are resolved, as you would expect. What are the other types of knowledge, though, an end user can get at, right? What's the information they can start to get at via the Workstream Concierge, which again is this overlay on top of your BI tool? Well, they can get at, again, like this is a certified dashboard that's active in its life cycle. There's a number of other collections that this is related to. You can get at how-to guides and more information. So in this case, I can now get at documentation about this dashboard and documentation that's relevant to me as an end user. Here's a definition that has been provided about one of the metrics discussed on this dashboard. And again, maybe a demo video providing further context. And of course, this definition you could type up here. But what this definition you're seeing here actually is a definition that we have inserted dynamically from our DBT project. And so what you can do is, as an example, search all the nodes within your DBT project, find the one that is relevant to this dashboard, and dynamically insert the definition that you as a data team have defined in code. And so all of those investments upstream that you've already made are now relevant and accessible to everyone else throughout your organization. So folks can start to get at kind of that core information about how do I use this? Or maybe who else has used this data? And again, it's here in their flow already, and it serves this information up to them in a way that doesn't require them to go hunting for it. But let's be honest, people are still going to have questions. It's inevitable. Maybe someone's going to be lazy and not consume the content that you've curated for them or is available, or it's not, the documentation isn't complete. So if they want, they can also come in here and see all of the conversations that are happening. They could see FAQs again, which is another form of documentation. Or if they still have that question, they can start a conversation right here with anyone else in the organization. And maybe, again, this is a question about this. And they no longer have to go anywhere else. They don't have to take a screenshot. They can create this conversation and loop, let's say Steve, who's a member of our data team, in. If they want to get really targeted on the feedback, they can do that right from here as well by providing a visual annotation. And in this way, you can just begin to collaborate with your data team, and it will just fit right into the agile workflow that as a data team, you have already established, right? So this is a conversation that we started on this dashboard, but I can now see the status. And for these historical conversations, you can see that they've now been associated to JIRA tickets, and they've automatically made their way onto this data team's backlog. And so there's no longer these kind of tragic trade-offs that you have to make. All of this knowledge is already available to folks where they already work. And if they want to start asking you questions, they can just do so right from here and collaborate with your team. So that's a really important part of the Data Concierge experience is bringing all of that knowledge to where folks already consume data. But to quote a tech visionary, there's one more thing that I want to talk to you about today. Because again, ultimately, folks are going to reach out and ask you questions still. And they might do so via your Data Concierge, but they might also do so in these Slack channels. And what's great about Workstream is that the Data Concierge also gets connected to and integrated with your data request Slack channels. Your Data Concierge is aware of not only all of the information that has been curated and provided in your repository, but also all of the knowledge that might have organically been shared in your Slack channels. And so in the future, when somebody reaches out and asks a question, as they're still going to do, such as, what's going on with the sales dashboard? It doesn't look right. The numbers appear broken. The concierge can automatically hop in there and answer these questions for you. It can answer these questions in Slack. It can answer these questions via your BI tool, that experience I was showing you as well. And it can provide that answer based off of all of the knowledge that has been shared. And it can direct you right to the information that is relevant to it. So again, in this case, if someone was asking that question in Slack, and they click through the provided link, it's going to take them right into your BI tool and right into the status page and the incident that is relevant at that moment in time. And so to sum it all up, how do you kill your service desk and how do you move away from these poisonous dynamics? You first off build a repository of all of your data and knowledge, and that includes all of your data, all of your live data, and all of the information required for folks to be able to apply that data. And then you make that knowledge available to folks on demand, wherever they already work, via a data concierge. And that means where they consume data and where they ask questions about data. And again, unlike a service desk model, what this does is it breaks the power dynamic. It allows your data team to continue to work and focus on deep work, and it automatically triages and helps everyone else with the questions that they're still inevitably going to have. So if this is interesting, please reach out. I'm just Nick at workstream.io. My Calendly is right here as well, and we would love to help you get started. I'm not lying when I tell you that we can help you get started in 30 minutes through a very, very quick onboarding session. It is actually incredibly simple to onboard and roll out your data concierge. And we have really, really approachable monthly pricing options as well. So again, we'd love to talk to you about how a service desk might not work for your team and how moving towards a data concierge could really, really help. So thanks again for your time today and looking forward to the opportunity to meet you.